Some people can remember faces perfectly, but forget names within seconds. They meet someone, hear the name clearly, and yet moments later, the name disappears from memory. This experience is very common, and psychologically, it usually has less to do with intelligence and more to do with how attention and memory work. One of the biggest reasons people forget names easily is lack of focused attention. When meeting someone new, the brain is often busy processing many things at once: appearance, social cues, the environment, and what to say next. Because attention is divided, the name may never fully register in memory. If the brain doesn't encode the information properly in the first place, it becomes difficult to recall later. Names are also abstract compared to other types of information. When you hear a job title, like doctor or teacher, your brain immediately connects it to meaning and images. A name like David or Sarah, however, has no built-in meaning unless you already know the person. Without a strong mental association, the brain has less material to attach the memory to. Social pressure can make the problem worse. When meeting someone new, people often feel a small amount of anxiety. They may be thinking about making a good impression or avoiding awkwardness. This mental pressure reduces the brain's ability to store new information. As a result, the name quickly slips away. Another factor is cognitive overload. In group settings where multiple introductions happen quickly, the brain receives more names than it can easily store. Working memory becomes overloaded, and the earliest names begin to fade almost immediately. Interestingly, people who are very socially aware sometimes forget names more often. Their attention may be focused on reading body language, tone, and emotional cues rather than memorizing specific words. They remember how the person felt, what they talked about, or their personality, but not their name. There is also a familiarity illusion that affects memory. When someone introduces themselves, the name may sound familiar because you have heard it many times before. The brain assumes it will be easy to remember later, so it doesn't prioritize storing it. Ironically, this false sense of familiarity makes the name easier to forget. Some people also rely more heavily on visual memory than verbal memory. They may remember faces, clothing, or gestures very clearly, but names, being purely verbal information, don't stick as easily. Forgetting names is usually not a sign of disrespect or disinterest. In most cases, it simply means the brain was focused on other information at the moment of introduction. The memory was never fully formed. Psychologically, remembering names improves when the brain creates associations. Repeating the name, connecting it to a visual image, or linking it to something familiar gives the mind more pathways to retrieve it later. In the end, people who forget names easily are not careless or forgetful in general. Their brains are often just prioritizing other social details over a single word. And in social situations filled with distractions and new information, that small piece of information is often the first thing to slip away.